Welcome. Welcome. I too shop at Walmart. Yes, I shop at Walmart all the time. But no, for reals. I couldn't be funny on this one. But I was thinking about I know a lot of people wonder how part of the way I got to the way that I currently am right now, this weird funky enlightenment and then getting downloads and all kinds of other vision stuff. But I do realize it is a little different. I mean, like everybody can do it. It is a little different, and sometimes for certain people, it is a lot easier. And I was trying to think and taking that into consideration, and then I saw a video. With, of course, I love Teal Swan. If I could be a lesbian, I would do Teal Swan like a lot. I would love doing her. But on her video of self development and transcendental power trip. And there's two other videos you should also watch that would be beneficial too. Is why you shouldn't fight your darkness, and then taking action is a crucial part of manifestation, which I'm going to make a comment about that one. How I talked about before, once you do make a choice, like you tell the universe you want balance, and you do like the shadow work, you do the meditations and like the inner stuff, but then it's almost like sitting there wishing for something, like maybe like $1 million, or you want that perfect partner, but then that's all you do is wish. Like you do no action, and it doesn't work that way. When you don't do any action to change your environment, other than like you did do the inner work, yeah, but you don't change your environment, like toxic people around you or the shitty relationship you were already in, your world, because you told the universe you wanted it to be put back in balance, it will do that. And it'll sit there and make everything so uncomfortable, everything that is not in balance, to basically cause your life to go into chaos, because it's trying to push you to do that action, make that change, get rid of the toxic people, maybe do other actions for yourself to bring things more into balance. And that's what it's doing. That's why it almost feels like it does feel uncomfortable, because you did give the okay for the universe to bring balance into your life, even though you did all the inner work. You can't just sit there and just do nothing else and just wish upon it like it's going to instantly going to manifest. It doesn't work that way. Um, okay, back to I was I was trying to figure out how to way to present it. Like I had this already figured out, but I was all messing around. Like my hair was sticking to everything and things were falling apart. And then I was even trying to decide if I should wear underwear or not. And then my cooch was sweating, and then boots. And should I take pictures for 3 hours of messing around? And now I'm like, oh, ugh. But so I'm going to have to be like reading and not be that totally entertaining. Um, about how getting, and I even named it as true light enlightenment versus intellectual enlightenment. And then seeing Teal Swan's video, the way she said it, and it's the transcendental power trip. And basically, it's your ego takes over. And I was like, oh shit, that does make sense. Like the intellectual enlightenment, you think you're enlightened, you do all the readings, all the exercises, and you're running around like a crazy person. And then you are on this ego trip. And I did think I knew everything. And I wanted everybody to do it the way that I had it. I had all the answers, and they were basically the poor, sad people. And that's how I viewed it. And I was very, very forceful. I was pretty forceful and just like nonstop about it. And then I was like, how then did the way I did it, like afterwards, that switch, what was it? And it was basically what ended up happening. I realized I ended up bypassing the ego because I was in so much physical pain. And along with the physical pain, I was in a lot of emotional pain. Like it just made it worse, just having really messed up people around me who could care less that I was in physical pain. Like I could barely walk. I could barely think. I was sick, throwing up, and then having like even doctors thinking that I was faking it, like having nobody believe me. Like I got to a point where like I just couldn't take it anymore. And I got to a point where I had almost like, as I said, I had like given up. I wasn't like trying to like suicide myself, but I didn't do anything at all that promoted life. Like I just ate shitty, didn't put on my seatbelt, like did nothing to keep myself safe. So bypassing ego through pain and suffering, I ended up, this is my example, and there's, I mean, other ways, and there's other people who explain it a lot better, like Teal Swan, facing and working through things authentically without blame to self or others. Seeing not just their part, but your part in the whole situation. Almost to the point you're embracing the pain, to go through it without avoidance, but knowing and determination that you will make it through, almost with curiosity, geniusness. Another thing is being creative about it and recognizing and asking when you need help, but not making a habit to have others do the work for you, because then you're not doing your work. Ego doesn't like pain and suffering, but actually does everything to avoid it, even to your own detriment. Ego tries to take over, distracting, trying to protect you, or at least that's what it thinks it's doing. And most likely, and not most likely, it's a learned behavior. Don't blame or reject it. Just be aware what affects it, how it works, recognize when it's at work. So then you can redirect it and your mind in a more healthy direction. So basically, you're going to be retraining, detoxing your ego, yourself, your mind, and your body, because your body does get hooked on like all the chaos and the adrenaline and the hormones. So you're detoxing your ego and your body from distractions, stimulation, disillusionment, scapegoating. You'll be turning or training your ego to be a monk that doesn't mind being alone and notices when things are unhealthy. And then it'll like automatically redirect you. Like it'll be instinctual, like, oh, this is not healthy. Oh, they're not healthy. I need to like step away, recharge, reassess. And then it'll be automatic for you to have balanced, healthy choices. It'll be totally natural. You won't even have to think about it. And then it'll give you a greater vision and perspective. So it's basically having an unbalanced ego versus a balanced ego. And your ego, it's not meant to be destroyed. It's basically, your ego is the result of your environment from the moment in utero, because there is the energy programming that you will receive a recording from your parents. Issues, if they had in their life, they didn't resolve, it stays in the energy. And then you end up having that recording within your body, and you have to process that, work through all that yourself. And then along with your environment and the negative thinking, the influences, you are training your ego how to be. So you can either you can retrain your ego to be balanced, or continue to be unbalanced, or even be even more unbalanced. And so like, of course, again, doing your shadow work, and obviously saying your demons, your angels, certain ideology and your environment, your current environment, bad habits. So when you do how I ended up dealing with my own pain, because I had no choice. The universe was like, you know what, you trash your body, you don't want to help yourself, you want to be a people pleaser, you want to be a workaholic, you want to be OCD, You want to be dogmatic about, like, almost like high and mighty because you're smarter and you know everything. And I was like a mildly manic depressive. And then being in pain, so much pain, it forced me not to be OCD. Now I have to choose which physical activities I do, the way I think, and then now I can't. There's no way I can be a people pleaser. It forced me to stop hurting myself and to choose how I was going to use the limited amount of energy I had, the limited amount of mind power to things that mattered, that would be more useful. And I wasn't trying for enlightenment. I wasn't. I just wanted to decrease the pain. I wanted to decrease like feeling like shit. I wanted to decrease hating everybody. But the number one thing I was working on was trying to decrease the pain. And then because ego doesn't like pain, ego was like, peace. It was in the background, just watching while I was just miserable. And now I can see why, like, the Sufis, how they do everything through like discomfort and things that you want, removing it from yourself. And it's like going through pain and suffering because the ego goes in the background. So the ego will not participate, but it will be an observer. It has no choice. So I ended up going through numerous dark nights of the soul, basically death and rebirth. I had to learn to let go. And it took me to the point where, like, each step, every little thing, I had to surrender. Like, it drove me nuts. Like, wanting to learn everything, do it. That's how I was. I was just nonstop. I wanted to learn everything, do everything, fix it myself. And I couldn't do that anymore. I felt like I was a prisoner in my own body. And it took me like 3 years of just sitting there being fucking pissed off that I went to college, doing it all by myself, taking care of my kids, being tortured by everybody. And then I get sick. And I was like, that's not fair. And then everybody just still nonstop just being dysfunctional. And I had to let go of that. I got to the point like I couldn't take it anymore. And I was just like asking the universe and God, I was like, please help me. And then what ended up happening is I had to do it myself, but then I had to stop being so dogmatic on myself. I had to stop being this perfectionist on everything. And then I had to let go of like not cleaning up the house all the time, every time. So it was more like I would only clean, I would do things, I wouldn't be a slob, but I wouldn't like just nitpick. I was like, you know what? When I know people are going to come over, then I'll pick up everything. I don't have to do it all the time. And then I was having issues where like even brushing my teeth, it started hurting my arms. So I was like, you know what? I was nice to myself. Instead of beating myself up, I was like, I'll just get an electric toothbrush. So I started doing little things here and there, which I was basically loving myself. But then also too, I started realizing other dysfunctional people being around me, like dating someone that was an asshole, that he was such a jerk. And he was like, he would say shit like, I bet you're happy now that you have to ask people for stuff. Like, he was trying to make me feel guilty that I was sick. So I had to get rid of him. Like, I couldn't, he like made me worse with his shit talking and his ugly attitude and just not having empathy. And he was more upset that I couldn't be like his little servant, talkative, entertaining little birdie for him, that he can have like arm candy. So that pissed, I was like, I had to get rid of him. And then like, even when I did start playing on Xbox, and my daughter and her girlfriend were here, and my mom and them would go at it, like they would do childish stuff to each other. And then when I had Turtle Beaches, I acted like, when they would come and complain to me, I acted like I couldn't hear them. And I was like, fuck it. I started caring about me, and I was like, they're grown-ups, they can deal with it. So like doing little things like that for yourself, that bypasses your ego. And then you start getting to know yourself and realizing things that are healthy for you, things that are not healthy for you. Then you start realizing what you want, what you don't want, what's balancing, what's not balancing. And then you do start getting rid of toxic stuff. And slowly I started eating healthier. And then a little bit by little bit, I started feeling better. And that's when I was like, you know what? The doctors aren't helping me. And I was like, fuck them. I know I'm sick. I know I'm not faking it. And I was like a workaholic. After 12, 18 hours of work, I worked out every morning after I got off my shift. So I even did that worked out. Oh my God. I barely sleep like maybe 2 hours a day. So yeah, I was like, you know what? They're wrong. I know I'm right. And so I started doing a lot of no, telling people no, even though they're like, you've changed, you're being mean. And no, I was like, fuck them. Because I realized the demands they were making of me, which wasn't fair, was making me worse. So little things, loving myself, trying to lower my pain, slowly but surely got me to where I am because I didn't try. When you sit there and like forced yourself and tried, then I realized that before the way it was the ego. And that's what I labeled as that wasn't the true light enlightenment. But the way Teal said it made more sense. It was the ego. The ego can fake it that you're enlightened, which you're not. And so doing stuff, little things like learning, doing mindfulness, just little activities. And then like I even had trouble, like it was a lot for me to like coordinate going to the bathroom, taking a shower, brushing my hair. So I was like, you know what? I don't need to wash my hair every day, every other day, and I don't need to feel guilty about it. So I made up little tricks where I would just found hairstyles and like you can use, I still do it. I do like ponytails and then the hair setting spray where it doesn't make it crunchy. They use it for rollers. So I would spray it in my hair when it's wet and have ponytails. And then like the whatever second, third day, undo the ponytails and it just makes it wavy. So I learned doing little tricks to make my life easier for myself. And then instead of like when sweeping, I would use the electric sweeper. And then that can even be part of a mindfulness meditation because then you could do slow movements or even picking up little easy hobbies that are just for you that you enjoy. And then I was like a fanatic about boots and dressing nice and looking perfect all the time in public. And then I was like, fuck it. Like at home, I was like, I could just be in sweats. I don't care. But I was like, every time I would leave my house, which would be like maybe once a week, and it was to doctor's appointments, I was like, you know what? I am going to make myself dress up just for the doctor's appointments. Or if I have to, that day, I would organize all my trips just for that day. And I would dress up just to make myself feel better. And little things like that would make me feel better. And like doing laundry, I was like, you know what? I will. And it was hard for me. Like I would forget what clothes I had. And it would take me forever like to make my appointments. And so I would have outfits, all set up my outfits. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to wash it every single time because I'm only going to wear it like once during the week for maybe an hour or 2 hours. I was like, I don't have to wash it and I'll just set it up. So I had specific set up outfits so I wouldn't stress out about picking the clothes and then getting upset. And then I forgot what clothes I had. And so you have to be creative doing little things to love yourself. And then realizing you're going to have to let go of what you were before. Because what you were before made you miserable and brought you to the current moment in the way that you feel. Instead of hanging on to what you think people should see you as, or you want them to like you, or you have to be perfect, or just little things that slowly but surely like broke you and made you miserable. And you weren't making yourself happy. You're just doing it just to seek approval from other people. So you end up learning to love and feel for yourself, stick up for yourself, even with yourself, not just against other people, with yourself. Then you'll end up to a point of peace and balance and awareness of what you do and what you don't need to do, what's good and what's not good for you, what is your truth and what's not, what is actual love and appreciation, even from yourself and from others, and what heals you and what doesn't. And I realized when I was in the whole ego enlightenment state, you end up running around basically like a chicken with its head cut off, looking for everything and anything basically to lose yourself. Because you're looking everywhere to find yourself other than within you. And like little symptoms, like that whole schmeal of that list on the board, symptoms of it being like more of your ego, like you justify, rationalize bad behavior. You're very dogmatic about everything. Dogmatic about everything. That your way is the only right way. You're very pushy, judgmental. It's very hard for you to let things go. You get triggered easily. You become abusive or let others abuse you. You become the people pleaser, the fixer. And you start noticing on certain things you're very closed-minded. You don't accept your part in every situation. Even if the other person, what they did was shitty and wrong, you still had a part in it. You allowed them to do it. You teach people how to treat you. So even though they did a shitty thing, you allowed them to do it. It isn't just them, it's you too. And especially a lot of need for distractions. If you feel uncomfortable in silence or being alone, then that's a sign that you're not in actual enlightenment, that it's just your ego that made up this little play for you. And especially like, even if you hardly know that your way is the right way, you still let others be as they want to be. You don't have to participate in it. You just let them be. If you can't, you're in your ego. And then also, let me throw this in there before I forget. Also, I was struggling on deciding how to, I was like, how do I help them hear their guides, different ways to do things. And then I was like, I didn't want to lead someone. Someone had mentioned it, that they can go into psychosis and severe disillusionment and a very, very unbalanced ego. And it could lead them into deep into the darker aspect of themselves. And I was trying to think, I was asking my guides, how do I present the information? And I was trying to like a long list to try this, that. And they told me, they're like, as they do their shadow work, as they do their inner work, as they get to know themselves, they'll hear their guides. They'll receive their gifts. But until they do, it will lead them into psychosis or into a darker aspect of themselves, which will be very, very unhealthy, and it can be very, very dangerous. And I've seen some people who have not gotten out of that and became very destructive to themselves and to other people. So I'm not going to be making videos on how to hear your guides better and I'm just going to keep on continue talking about shadow work. But that is how I did get to where I'm at. And I wasn't trying for it. I ended up reaching it through my pain and all the suffering. And so that's what you need to dive deep in, the stuff that makes you uncomfortable, the stuff that bothers you. You need to dive deep into your pain and your suffering, because then your ego will not take control. It actually, it leaves you there. It abandons you on that one if you don't let it take control. And so do the stuff that does make you cry. Do the stuff that deal with the stuff that has made you angry. Deal with the stuff that has made you uncomfortable. Like, embrace it. Go deep into it. Because in the end, after it, just slowly but surely, it gets easier. And you are going to go through numerous dark nights of the soul. And what ends up happening, you reach this point, each time you reach this point where, like, it's almost like a what the fuck. And it's like you just, at that point, you let go and you're like, I don't know what else to do. And you surrender. And it's like all those parts of you shatter, like it's just totally broken. And it's like the universe just picks it all back up. But it's a new you, a healthier you. And it's the same thing as I mentioned in my other videos. It's a cold reboot. Everything shuts down. All the shitty software, hardware, it shuts down and then it gets restarted again. But it's a cleaner version. But it isn't going to just be 1, 2, 3. It's probably going to be hundreds of times. And you'll even have many versions of Dark Night of the Soul. But as you get along, the first couple of times, it's going to be so painful. It's going to hurt. But after that, it gets easier. And you'll even recognize when it's happening. And you're like, cool, okay, it's not punishment. It's something good for me. Then you'll realize once it almost like you'll get into the flow of Dark Night of the Soul. And it gets easier for the littlest things. You're like, okay, cool. I'm going to receive it. I'm going to just swim in it, drink it, just give it to me. Because you'll realize that the more you let it in, the faster it is. And then each time you like enjoy it, because something like lights up inside you, a realization, a growth. And it's pretty amazing. So like all the stuff that pains you, hurts you, don't avoid it. Just get up in there. Roll up your sleeves, take off your shoes and socks, and just get up in there. And just drink it in. And then it gets way easier. So I hope that helps. Hopefully my next ones will be a lot more funnier, since I did all the work and this stuff was like all caught up in my hair and I was sweating, and then I had boots and like I put a lot of work into this one. And then my arrows, you like my arrows, and then crossbow, and I forgot what the pistol thingamajigger is. But I hope it helps. And remember, it's simple but complicated.